Hi, this is Paul Sinclair from Super Deluxe Edition, taking a first look at George Michael's Listen Without Prejudice reissue. Listen Without Prejudice was George's second album, released originally in 1990, which makes it technically a 27th anniversary edition. I think Sony were trying to get it out on the 25th, but obviously a lot of stuff has happened in between. This was due out in October, I think, 2016. Got delayed to spring this year. Obviously George died, sadly, and it's just come out this week. It came out on Friday. Now what I've got in my hands here, what I'm holding in my hands, is the Super Deluxe Edition, or the box set, or the Deluxe Edition, whatever you want to call it. But this is the top of the range version. This is about £30. And what effectively we've got here is it's a book within an outer slipcase. It feels quality the way they've packaged it. It's got this slightly back to front thing going on, because this is actually the back and that's the front, so it pulls out like that. First thing to point out is that Sony, or George's team, or George himself maybe, we don't really know, but they've made the decision to crop into the front cover. What I have in my hands on the right hand side is the original release, the original vinyl record. And next to it I've got the box set, the new reissue. Now I'm quite disappointed in this because I really like the front cover. This is a famous photo from the 1940, I think, Coney Island on the beach. And you know, it's really fantastic, this photograph. And there's certain sort of key points in it that I've always, my eye has always been drawn to this woman here. And it has a certain perspective to it. I mean, I should point out that this was already cropped into a bigger photo, and in a minute I'll show you in the back of the booklet, they show you the whole photo. You know, this just has some perspective, it has some depth, it shows off the scale of the image. And I just don't like what they've done here. And also look at the difference in the photo reproduction. This original release has a kind of creamy white element to it. It's kind of sepia, I suppose. It's a little bit sepia. I compare that to the new one. Not only have they zoomed into it, so the resolution isn't as good, but it's just very grey looking. It's really quite disappointing how the front cover's turned out. Why is it that only the Beatles seem to be able to reproduce their cover art like exceptionally well? There doesn't seem to be much of an excuse. Let's remember that this image was 50 years old when it was used originally. So if they managed to get this looking great in 1990, then I can't see any reason why they couldn't have done the same thing in 2017. If you're wondering where this image is, you can see that this image is here. So this guy's holding the his underpants or some white sheet up there, and that's the same guy there. So the bottom of the new deluxe edition is roughly about here. So this lady here, this woman here, she's effectively about there. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame. I don't really know why it doesn't look as good, but it doesn't. It's reasonably clear to see. They've just reproduced the same image here. This actually continues. I mean, I suppose this is quite a nice touch, but if you put these together, it's a continuation of the image. But even so, you're still not looking at the whole thing. So the book is about the size of, it's about 8-inch square, I'd say. Slightly bigger than a 7-inch single. And when you open the book, you get this download code. I'm not really quite sure why they're offering downloads of all the content that's on a CD, because that's not really normal. But the key thing is, this deluxe set doesn't come with the fantasy featuring Nile Rodgers on CD. It's actually quite misleading, because a few people are unhappy because on the back sheet here, it's actually lists fantasy featuring Nile Rodgers at the end of disc 2. Now that actually isn't the case, it's a download. It's a bit naughty in a way. I've got no idea why they did this, and maybe it's just a mistake, but Fantasy is on the 2 CD set, which we're going to look at in a second, but it doesn't feature on disc 2 of this Super Deluxe edition. It's only a download. You only get it when you redeem your download code. I think a few people are understandably a bit peeved about that, and it is a little bit misleading, I have to say. I know this is only a back sheet, but there's a few little errors here. It should say Freedom 90 there, and it doesn't. This MTV Unplugged here, it's supposed to say available for the first time, and it doesn't. I mean, there's a few little errors, but not really a big deal. So just to flick you through the book, a little bit of an intro there from George. And there's some notes here. There's some quite nice imagery and bits of lyrics in the photos. I've read these notes, and if you're expecting to learn anything from them, I don't think you're going to, but they're kind of nice enough. I do like this book, but there's not really, it would have been nice to have had a track by track discussion, with George taking you through each track on the album. In the end, it's a bit of the John Hazelwood notes, they're a little bit kind of PR happy, if you like. One slight issue here is that, considering anyone that bought the album in 1990, if you were 20 in 1990, you're nearly 50 now. This light silver text on white paper is really quite difficult to read. I mean, obviously it's a creative decision, but I don't think it's a very good one. I mean, look at the lyrics here. It's not great. The original album, it was always black in the background, so I'm not quite sure why they've chosen to do that. Here's the image I was telling you about. So if you look at that, so the original album cover was a crop of a bigger image, but now on the deluxe edition it crops even more. This was taken in 1940. As I say, it's Coney Island on a quiet Sunday afternoon with a crowd of 1 million people. It's amazing. So this is the bit where it lists all the bonus tracks on the 3rd CD. A couple of mistakes. It's Astrid Gilberto when it should be Astrid. This image here is the image they've decided to use as the front cover for the 2 CD version. We'll look at that in a second. So this is the bit where the discs are in the book. So this folds out. You've got the remastered album, MTV Unplugged here, and then Look, which is the DVD, and the bonus audio disc, which I actually did a bit of work on that for Sony. And that's it. What I would say about this deluxe set is it's £29.99, just under £30. It looks like it was quite expensive to produce, but I really, really wish they'd kept with the full image. I mean, even if you look at the CD, look, there's the original CD. There's nothing wrong with that. I know it's small, but it looks fine, it looks good. So, why that couldn't have been reproduced in a slightly larger size, I really don't know. So the cropping and the quality of the image are pretty disappointing, I have to say. But the content is a step up from Faith, because the Faith disc, the Faith was 2 CDs and a DVD, wasn't it? She had the album remastered. The bonus disc on Faith, I don't think it was as comprehensive as the bonus disc on this Without Prejudice. And of course you get 2 here, you get MTV Unplugged and you get the bonus disc. So I do think this is much better than Faith. But as I say, my kind of criticisms of some of the presentation, I think, remain. So here's the 2 CD version of the reissue of Listen Without Prejudice. As you can see, it doesn't have the normal cover, either cropped or uncropped. It has this new image of George Michael. I don't really know when this image dates from or when it was taken. It's a good shot of him. However, in my opinion, this should have been a slipcase. I think they should have maintained the original cover. The whole point of him not being on the front cover was to put aside image and concentrate on the music. So why they would choose to go against that now, I really don't know. It was claimed that this was George's idea to do this. I don't mind this image on the front. I don't really like this image on the back because it's kind of older era. Maybe the idea is to tie in with MTV, so that's MTV and that's Listen Without Prejudice, I don't know. But when you open it out, then you do see part of the original cover. Obviously it's not the whole thing, as I discussed earlier. That's the sticky you get on the front. And unlike the deluxe edition, this MTV Unplugged, at the end of it, it tacks onto the CD the Nile Rodgers version of Fantasy. And the reason, the logic behind that, if you're wondering, is because all the deluxe sets had been manufactured already. So they couldn't really redo all the discs for them. So, whereas that wasn't the case with the 2 CDs, so that's the reason it's on here. There's George's message. The booklet here, I mean, the booklet even has the same front cover. For the front of the booklet, you think they might have given you the original cover. But this booklet is just a mini version of what's in the deluxe edition. Same silver text on white, which is hard to read. This is only about a tenner, so it's great value. There's not really much more to say about that. If you don't want all the bonus kind of remixes and edits and stuff like that, then this is a reasonable option. Now here's the third and final physical format for the reissue, the vinyl. This is the only of the 3 formats that actually reproduces the cover as it was originally. But it does give you another opportunity to compare. I mean, it doesn't look too bad on here. So the original vinyl's on the left. Actually, I'll swap it around. So reissue on the left, original vinyl on the right. The original has a more sepia feel to it. So I don't know who signed this off, but it doesn't look as good as the original. That's all you can say about it. The back is virtually identical. So again, reissue on the left, original on the right. But this is on 180 gram vinyl, so it feels thicker than the original. Everything's virtually identical, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a tight fit, the vinyl in the sleeve. That's one side, that's the other side there. So that's the lyrics. Reissue on the left, original on the right. But the photo, for some reason, I don't know why, they've chosen a different photo. I think the original is better, to be honest. On the right is the original, on the left is the reissue. So in summary, I really like the content of Listen Without Prejudice. I think you've got the remastered album, you've got MTV Unplugged, you've got a bonus disc on the deluxe edition with all the edits and remixes that you really could want. And of course there's the DVD with the South Bank show and various other things. So I think content-wise it's spot on. I think price-wise it's spot on. The only place it really falls down is some of the elements of the presentation. So there's been some strange decisions. I don't think replacing the original cover with George's head works. That's a commercial decision. I don't think it's a creative decision. I don't like the cropping of the original cover on the deluxe edition. And out of the 3 formats, the one that does maintain the original cover doesn't reproduce it very well. So it's a little bit disappointing, some of those presentational things. What I would say is that we saw with Faith there were some weird decisions made with the bonus disc, a few omissions and things like that. I just don't think you're ever going to get everything you want when it's coming from George and his team. So I would heartily recommend any of these formats of the Listen Without Prejudice reissue. It's just a little bit disappointing that it wasn't absolutely perfect in terms of the presentation. So this has been Paul Sinclair from Super Deluxe Edition taking a first look at the George Michael Listen Without Prejudice reissue.